Millionaire spends all his time with Mistress' pregnant wife's unexpected move leaves him helpless. In the heart of Chicago's glittering skyline, whispers of scandal cling to the walls of an opulent mansion. Jameson Lockhart, a millionaire blessed with power, charisma, and endless resources, appears to have everything anyone could want. Yet beneath the polished exterior, he's living a lie that threatens to tear apart his world. His pregnant wife, Alicia, glows with maternal grace, while dark rumors swirl of Jameson's secret affair. When the evidence mounts and Alicia delivers an audacious ultimatum, an entire dynasty stands on the brink of collapse. Prepare for a story of desire, betrayal, and a shocking twist that no one sees coming. Jameson Lockhart was born into a legacy of privilege. His family name was synonymous with towering skyscrapers and exclusive developments across the heart of Chicago. His father, Reginald Lockhart, had laid the foundation of their empire during the city's real estate booms, erecting glass-wrapped monuments that soared above Lake Michigan. Growing up on a sprawling Lake Forest estate, Jameson rarely heard the word no. From an early age, he was given every advantage. He attended the prestigious Glenwood Academy, spent summers on yachts along the French Riviera, and hobnobbed with the children of dignitaries at lavish galas. By the time he reached his 20s, Jameson had transformed into a dazzling, self-confident man who moved effortlessly through society's upper echelons. He was tall, poised, and exuded a natural magnetism that made people gravitate to him. Dressed in tailored suits and sporting a timeless grin, he commanded attention without even trying. Yet for all his inherited power, Jameson wanted to forge a path of his own. Under the guidance of his father's closest business associates, people like the famed real estate mogul Sam Zell Jameson learned the art of negotiation and high-stakes acquisitions. By his mid-20s, he had bought and flipped a series of apartment complexes and boutique hotels, tripling his original investment. Newspapers declared him the face of Chicago's new generation of real estate magnates. But Jameson's personal life was a different story. Women found him irresistibly charming, and he took full advantage of that fact, cycling through short-lived relationships that rarely extended beyond the social season. Then, at a high-profile charity auction benefiting children's hospitals, he met Alicia Warner. She was unlike anyone he had encountered, a warm, empathetic soul who volunteered her free time mentoring disadvantaged youth. While the other attendees flaunted designer gowns and diamond jewelry, Alicia wore a simple black dress and spoke passionately about philanthropic causes. Their connection was instant. Alicia's authenticity resonated with Jameson in a way that none of his previous flings had. She wasn't impressed by his money or social standing. Instead, she challenged him to think beyond acquisitions, expansions, and profits. In her eyes, the greatest measure of success was the positive impact one had on the community. Their courtship started with quiet dinner dates in hidden gem restaurants, away from the prying eyes of paparazzi. Jameson found himself drawn not just to Alicia's beauty, though she was undeniably striking with her gentle brown eyes and curly dark hair, but to her strong moral compass. Within a year, Jameson proposed. Their wedding was a fairy tale event held on the Lockhart estate, complete with a grand floral arch, a jazz quartet, and a guest list featuring Chicago's most influential figures. At the ceremony's close, Alicia and Jameson stood hand in hand under a shower of rose petals, beaming at each other as though no one else existed in the world. For a while, it seemed as if they were living in a realm of eternal bliss. A few months into their marriage, they discovered Alicia was pregnant. The Lockhart family delighted in the news, anticipating an heir to carry forward their legacy. Alicia imagined a peaceful life supporting Jameson's ambitions, dedicating herself to charitable work and raising a family in a nurturing environment. But as the months wore on, that serene vision began to slip away. Unbeknownst to Alicia, Jameson's restless heart yearned for excitement, something beyond the routine of marriage and pending fatherhood. It was a hunger he tried to deny, but could not fully quench. On a glittering winter night, at a social event hosted by an acquaintance, everything changed when Jameson met Cassandra Price. And from that moment onward, the seeds of betrayal were sown in the Lockhart marriage. It happened at a high-profile runway show at Chicago's Museum of Contemporary Art, an evening dedicated to avant-garde fashion and philanthropic pledges. Jameson typically found such events tedious, but he attended out of obligation to his father, who served on the board. Besides, Jameson had a knack for networking in these spaces. Deals often blossomed under the veneer of high society chatter. That evening, he was introduced to Cassandra Price by John Friedman, a mutual business contact. Friedman, enthralled by Cassandra's looks and rumored European connections, sidled up to Jameson with a mischievous twinkle in his eye. "Jameson, you've got to meet Cassandra," he said, tapping Jameson's shoulder. "She's just back from Milan, and I hear she's interested in expanding her modeling brand into real estate partnerships for some reason." Jameson turned. His gaze collided with a woman of striking presence, tall, with sable brown hair sweeping over one shoulder, smoky eyes that seemed to peer into a person's core, and a form-fitting black dress that accentuated her every curve. There was an immediate spark, a magnetic pull he couldn't explain. Cassandra extended her hand, her voice as smooth as satin. "Pleasure to meet the famous Jameson Lockhart," she purred, a faint smile tracing her crimson lips. "I've heard quite a bit about you." Their conversation began with typical small talk, Chicago's real estate scene, the philanthropic angle of the event, and fleeting mentions of world travel. Yet there was an undercurrent of tension, an electric hum that Jameson struggled to ignore. She asked him about his family's expansions, referencing a rumor that he might be collaborating with Sam Zell in the future, a sign that she was keeping tabs on his business moves. Every question she posed seemed designed to flatter his ego. Alicia, at home that evening due to her pregnancy-related fatigue, texted Jameson a brief message: "Don't forget to eat dinner. Hope it's not too dull. Love you." He glanced at his phone, but felt an odd reluctance to reply right away. Here he was, enthralled in the moment, eager to maintain his air of mystery before Cassandra. The guilt flickered, but he pushed it down, reminding himself he was just talking, networking. Nothing more, he silently insisted. Yet he lingered far too long in Cassandra's presence. They exchanged cards, though he rarely gave his personal contact details to acquaintances. Something about Cassandra compelled him to ignore usual caution. Even as he bid her goodbye for the night, walking out into the cold Chicago air, her presence clung to him like a haunting perfume. Over the next few weeks, Jameson rationalized staying in touch. Cassandra was looking to invest in or endorse certain high-end properties, and Jameson's family business could supposedly benefit from her circle of European contacts. With Alicia's pregnancy advancing, Alicia had begun turning in early, missing social events to manage her frequent bouts of exhaustion. Jameson, feeling restless, found himself scheduling business lunches with Cassandra, telling himself it was purely professional, but these lunches stretched into late afternoons. At first, they discussed property developments in River North and potential brand endorsements. Their conversations quickly shifted to personal anecdotes, Cassandra's upbringing in a struggling family, Jameson's challenges in stepping out of his father's shadow. She would place a hand on his arm when emphasizing a point, gaze up at him from beneath long lashes. Eventually, the lines blurred between business and something more. Late one evening, after Alicia had gone to bed, Jameson found himself texting Cassandra about random things, great lobster risotto at that spot near Oak Street, or just saw a new commercial building that might interest you. Each message felt exhilarating. He told himself it was harmless flirtation, a way to escape the monotony of marital responsibility. After all, Alicia was completely absorbed in baby preparations, rarely up for spontaneous late-night talk. What Jameson didn't realize was that each seemingly innocent message was chipping away at the foundation of his marriage. He was cultivating a dangerous intimacy with another woman, and once that door cracked open, it would be nearly impossible to close. Alicia sensed the emotional distance before she discovered any overt evidence. She was in her second trimester of pregnancy, which brought not only morning sickness but also a roller coaster of hormonal changes that left her exhausted. She yearned for Jameson to share in her excitement, attend ultrasounds with her, help pick out nursery colors, and revel in the baby's first kicks. Instead, his attention seemed scattered, his phone constantly buzzing with urgent calls that took him into another room. Her close friend, Lucia Thompson, noticed the shift during a weekend brunch. They met at a cozy bistro near Millennium Park, where Alicia arrived, wrapped in a loose-fitting peacoat to accommodate her growing belly. She picked at a plate of eggs Florentine, her mood subdued. Lucia reached across the table and gave Alicia's hand a gentle squeeze. "You look tired. Is everything all right at home?" Alicia hesitated, letting her gaze rest on the steam wafting from her mug of herbal tea. "I don't know," she admitted. "Jameson's so busy lately, and I can't quite figure out if it's really work or something else." Lucia studied her friend carefully. "You don't think he might be?" She paused, reluctant to voice the suspicion. "Seeing someone else, do you?" Alicia bit her lip. Part of her refused to believe Jameson would risk their marriage while she was pregnant. The other part recalled stories of affluent men succumbing to temptation. She remembered her parents' divorce in her teenage years, triggered by her father's secret relationship. The memory made her heart constrict. "I hope not," she whispered. "But sometimes he's just not there, like his mind is in another place entirely." Rather than confront Jameson directly that day, Alicia attempted small gestures to reignite their bond. She cooked his favorite meals, filet mignon with peppercorn sauce, served with a side of garlic mashed potatoes, and invited him to watch classic movies in bed. She even asked if he wanted to accompany her to a prenatal yoga class, thinking it might be fun for them to share. But Jameson always had an excuse: business calls, late meetings, endless errands. Meanwhile, his relationship with Cassandra slipped further from professional facade to outright flirtation. Secret lunches turned into dinners at candlelit restaurants. Their texts grew bolder. Cassandra would send sultry photos from hotel suites or playful messages late at night claiming she couldn't sleep. Jameson, riding the rush of forbidden excitement, convinced himself that it was just a temporary escape. "This isn't real love," he rationalized. "It's a fling. I can handle it." Late one evening, Alicia decided to surprise Jameson at his office. She had baked homemade cookies, something that had once been a sweet gesture. They both enjoyed and arrived with the box in her arms. The office lights were dim except for the faint glow in Jameson's corner suite, but the sight that greeted her through the glass walls made her pause. Jameson was inside with Cassandra, leaning against a desk. Their posture was intimate. Jameson's hand brushed Cassandra's arm, and she laughed softly at something he whispered. Alicia's chest tightened. She didn't barge in. Instead, she hurried to the elevator, her mind awhirl. Everything felt surreal, as if time had slowed to a crawl, and each breath she took required immense effort. She hadn't seen them kiss or embrace, but the energy in that room spoke louder than words. In that moment, Alicia understood that her marriage was on a precipice, and she was terrified of what might happen if she looked over the edge. That night, Alicia locked herself in the master bedroom, feeling waves of betrayal and confusion. When Jameson came home, she sat upright in bed, arms folded across her chest, waiting. She had half a mind to confront him immediately, demanding to know what he was doing so late with Cassandra Price. Yet fear of a painful truth silenced her. The next morning, she confided in her older sister, Camilla Warner, who lived just a few blocks away. Camilla arrived swiftly, wearing a concerned expression as she stepped into Alicia's sitting room. Alicia tearfully recounted what she had witnessed, finishing with a quiver in her voice. "What if it's true, Camilla? What if he's seeing her behind my back?" Camilla rubbed Alicia's shoulder soothingly. "First of all, we need to keep you calm for the baby's sake," she said gently. "Second, you can't let suspicion fester. You have to talk to him directly. Ask him plainly." Alicia took a shaky breath. She dreaded the possibility that Jameson would confirm her worst fears, but she knew continuing in silence would only strain her further. That afternoon, she prepared lunch in their elegant formal dining room, a relatively simple meal of grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, and a bright green salad. Jameson walked in looking preoccupied. He barely acknowledged her attempts at conversation. Finally, Alicia mustered her courage. "Jameson," she began, carefully keeping her tone measured, "I came by your office last night. I saw you with Cassandra Price." She deliberately withheld mention of the cookies or how long she had watched. His eyes darted to hers, a flicker of surprise, quickly replaced by composed indifference. "Yes, she stopped by to discuss a potential investment project." "Why?" Alicia clenched her fork, the metal prongs digging into her palm. It seemed more personal than business. Jameson set down his glass of sparkling water. "Is this an interrogation?" he asked coolly. "You know I have to entertain investors and business partners sometimes. Cassandra's interest in real estate is real, Alicia." She swallowed hard, her nerves rattled by his defensive tone. "I'm not accusing you of anything without reason," she said. "I'm worried. I feel like you're slipping away from me." Jameson sighed, pushing his plate aside. "I'm under a lot of pressure with expansions, negotiations, the upcoming board meeting with my father. I don't have the bandwidth to constantly reassure you every time I'm with someone from the opposite sex." A tear escaped Alicia's eye before she could quell it. "I'm trying to trust you," she said quietly. "But it's getting harder each day." He rose abruptly from his chair, dropping his napkin on the table. "I can't do this right now," he muttered. "I'll be late for a conference call." Without another word, he walked away, leaving Alicia staring at a half-finished meal, alone in the stillness of that grand dining room. In her anguish, Alicia sought counsel from her sister again. Camilla listened patiently, and then, with a determined glint in her eye, insisted they dig deeper. "If he won't be honest," Camilla said, "maybe we can figure out the truth ourselves." Although Alicia felt uneasy about subterfuge, desperation gnawed at her. She feared for the future of her unborn child. Did she truly want to bring new life into a broken home? That same week, Camilla discreetly asked around their social circle. Whispers abounded about Jameson being seen with a mysterious brunette at upscale bars, leaving fancy hotels at odd hours. No one had photographic proof, but the rumors were consistent. Each rumor was like a needle piercing Alicia's heart. Meanwhile, Jameson retreated further into secrecy, stepping out often for business, returning home late with the faintest hint of perfume Alicia did not wear. A silent tension enveloped the Lockhart mansion. Staff tiptoed around Alicia, who alternated between anxious tears and steely resolve. A storm was brewing, and it was only a matter of time before the thunder of confrontation echoed through every corridor of their luxurious home. One evening, after another terse argument left Alicia in tears, Jameson impulsively texted, "Cassandra, can we meet? Need to talk urgent." His original plan was to put an end to their flirtation before it escalated further. Guilt gnawed at him. He didn't want to be the kind of man who left his pregnant wife at home while he cavorted with another woman. Yet the very fact that he reached out to Cassandra at such a vulnerable moment revealed how deeply entangled he had become. They met in a dimly lit lounge inside the Ritz-Carlton. Cassandra wore a sleek black cocktail dress that showcased her lithe figure. The room smelled of expensive leather and single malt scotch, a stark contrast to the warm, homey scents of Alicia's cooking. Cassandra greeted Jameson with a languid smile, sliding into a plush booth. "You sounded upset over text," she noted softly. "Is everything all right?" He raked a hand through his hair, exhaling heavily. "No, it's not. Alicia suspects something is going on. She saw us at my office, and there are rumors circulating." Cassandra leaned forward, her eyes glinting with concern, or perhaps curiosity. "What did you tell her?" Jameson hesitated, swirling the ice in his whiskey. "I denied it was anything but business." "But she's not convinced." A spark of anger flickered in Cassandra's eyes as she grabbed his hand, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. "You can't keep me a secret forever, Jameson. You need to make a choice." He gulped, realizing how quickly the conversation had veered into dangerous territory. This was supposed to be his chance to end the affair, yet here he was, letting her demands corral him. Choice reverberated in his mind. Could he truly walk away from Alicia, who was pregnant with his child? Or could he cast aside this thrilling relationship with Cassandra, which offered an escape from the weight of familial expectations? Before he could respond, Cassandra's phone lit up on the table. A quick glance at the caller ID, and she pressed a manicured finger to her lips. "I have to take this. One moment." Sliding out of the booth, she answered the call in hushed tones, leaving Jameson alone to grapple with his conflicting emotions. Across town, Alicia was in the Lockhart Mansion's expansive living room, staring at her phone. She'd texted Jameson twice, hoping to patch things up or at least check on him, but he hadn't replied. She worried about his whereabouts, an uneasy dread settling in her stomach. Just then, Camilla arrived unannounced, her face grim. "I was at a gathering earlier," Camilla began cautiously. "People were talking about Jameson. They said he's been spotted at the Ritz-Carlton lounge quite a bit lately." Alicia bristled, tension rolling across her shoulders. "He said he was meeting a potential investor tonight. He didn't mention the Ritz specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me." Camilla's expression softened. "I hate bringing this up, but maybe it's time you took more decisive action. Think about you and the baby. If Jameson is being unfaithful, you have rights and options." Tears stung Alicia's eyes, but a spark of anger blazed in her chest. She recalled her mother's sad countenance when Alicia's father walked away. She remembered promising herself she'd never let a man destroy her life. Rising from the velvet sofa, Alicia pressed a hand protectively against her belly. "I won't stay silent anymore. If Jameson is with Cassandra, then it's up to me to protect my child." At the lounge, Cassandra returned to the booth, ending her call. "Sorry," she said, sliding back into the seat. "My agent needed to confirm details for a Milan trip." She looked directly into Jameson's eyes. "Where were we?" Jameson forced a tight smile, tension coiling in his stomach. "Nowhere. I need to go," he stammered, tossing a few bills on the table. Before Cassandra could protest, he strode out into the night, the cold wind slapping him into harsh reality. Yet even as he walked away, he knew the situation was spiraling out of control, and the next move belonged not just to him, but to Alicia, who was done waiting for truth and fidelity that might never come. Within days, the scandal broke into the open. A local gossip blog, known for sniffing out high society affairs, published a grainy photograph of Jameson escorting Cassandra out of a luxury hotel lobby. Though the images were not perfectly clear, the distinctive cut of Jameson's suit and Cassandra's recognizable features set tongues wagging. Suddenly, Alicia's worst fears were splashed across social media feeds. Overnight, the Lockhart name, normally associated with philanthropic galas and real estate triumphs, became fodder for rumor mills. Anonymous commenters speculated about Alicia's pregnancy, Cassandra's motives, and whether Jameson's father, Reginald, would intervene. Calls started flooding into Lockhart International's PR department. Alicia found herself fielding painful inquiries from acquaintances, all laced with pity. One morning, Alicia sat in her bedroom, scrolling through the vicious articles on her tablet. She trembled, tears spilling freely, until she flung the device onto the bed in frustration. Moments later, Jameson strode into the room, wearing a haunted look. "Alicia," he began, his voice thick with regret. "I can explain." She cut him off with a quavering breath. "Explain what, exactly?" she demanded, standing up. "That you made a fool of me while I'm carrying your child? That the entire city is laughing behind my back?" Jameson's eyes flickered with panic. I never wanted it to get this far. I was confused, restless. But I swear, Cassandra doesn't matter to me the way you do. How dare you even say her name in front of me?" Alicia's voice rose in anger. She pressed a hand protectively to her swelling belly. "You lied. You said I was imagining things. You made me feel insane for suspecting the truth." He ran a hand through his hair, visibly agitated. "I never meant to hurt you. It spiraled." I couldn't stop. Her tears dried, replaced by a cold resolve. "You need to leave, Jameson," she whispered. "Pack a bag and go. I won't have you here pretending we're a family when you've been running around behind my back." Jameson stared at her, pain etched on his face. "Alicia, please, we can try therapy, or—" She shook her head, jaw clenched. "Get out." Within the hour, Jameson was gone, dragging a suitcase down the grand marble staircase. The staff exchanged mournful glances. They had never seen the lady of the house so resolute, nor the master so defeated. Jameson checked into a posh downtown hotel, ironically one partially owned by the Lockhart conglomerate, and found himself surrounded by the trappings of luxury that now felt hollow. Meanwhile, Alicia contacted an attorney, Olivia Kim, recommended by a mutual friend. Olivia specialized in family law among the elite. She gently explained Alicia's legal options, from separation agreements to divorce proceedings. "With you being pregnant," Olivia said, adjusting her stylish glasses, "the courts will look very favorably on you regarding custody and spousal support. However, we have to consider the emotional toll of litigation. Are you prepared for that?" Alicia grimaced, swallowing back a fresh wave of tears. "I'm not sure. Part of me wants to punish Jameson for what he's done, but another part wonders if I owe my child a chance at a stable family." Olivia nodded understandingly. "You don't have to decide everything today. Focus on your health first. Keep records of any communication, and if you have any inclination to reconcile, ensure you do it from a position of clarity, not fear." As the dust began to settle, Alicia realized she had to recalibrate her entire life. The illusions of a perfect marriage lay in ruins, yet she had a baby on the way who needed her to be strong. Gathering her courage, she arranged for more frequent prenatal checkups, scheduled therapy sessions for herself, and tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy at the mansion. Jameson, for his part, sat alone in his penthouse suite, ignoring Cassandra's calls. He stared out the window at the sparkling city that once adored him. Now, he felt like the protagonist in a tragedy of his own making. Confronted by the consequences of his actions, he found himself haunted by the memory of Alicia's tear-streaked face and the life he had recklessly imperiled. Jameson's father, Reginald Lockhart, was livid. Despite his advanced age, He retained a commanding presence, silver hair, neatly combed, regal posture, and an unyielding glare that could make corporate CEOs tremble. The scandal threatened the Lockhart family's standing and cast doubt on upcoming deals. Reginald summoned Jameson to the Lockhart corporate offices, a sleek tower overlooking the Chicago River. When Jameson arrived, still disheveled from a sleepless night, he found his father waiting in a boardroom filled with floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spread out below, a testament to Reginald's success. "Sit," Reginald snapped, his voice devoid of the usual paternal warmth. Jameson slumped into a leather chair, avoiding his father's eyes. He braced for the tirade that followed. "How could you be so reckless?" Reginald demanded, pacing the length of the table. "Having an affair with some model and letting it become public fodder when your wife is pregnant. This isn't just about your personal life, it jeopardizes everything we've built. Our brand, our credibility, our family name." Jameson stared at his hands, regret coiling in his stomach. "I never meant for this to blow up like it did. Things got out of hand." "Out of hand is an understatement," Reginald seethed. "I've had to personally reassure Sam Zell and other major investors that this won't affect Lockhart International's upcoming ventures. I can't even begin to describe the damage control required here." The mention of Sam Zell, a titan in the real estate world, rattled Jameson. He had admired Zell's daring investments and had always hoped to earn his respect. Now, he was tarnishing the family's reputation just as they were on the cusp of major expansions. "I'll fix it," Jameson said hastily, though he had no immediate plan. "I'll apologize to Alicia, do whatever it takes to salvage the marriage." Reginald paused mid-step, his tone softening marginally. "I'm not saying you have to remain in a loveless union, but your wife deserves better than to be humiliated publicly. She's carrying my grandchild. If there's any chance for reconciliation, take it seriously. If not, then end it respectfully. This half-in, half-out charade is dishonorable." Jameson nodded, feeling the weight of his father's words pressed down on him. "I understand. I'll see what I can do." That afternoon, he mustered the courage to call Alicia. Unsurprisingly, she didn't pick up, so he left a voicemail. "I'm sorry, I know words can't undo the damage. But I'd like to talk in person, if you're open to it." Hours passed without a response. Each minute chipped away at his composure. Desperate, Jameson reached out to Camilla, asking if she could intercede. Camilla, protective of Alicia, was reluctant. "You hurt her more than you realize," she said pointedly. "I'm not going to force her to see you. If she wants to meet, that's her decision. But don't make any false promises." Cassandra, meanwhile, felt blindsided by Jameson's abrupt withdrawal. She had envisioned a scenario where Jameson would eventually divorce Alicia and move forward with her. Instead, she found herself ghosted by the very man who had once whispered sweet confessions of longing into her ear. Anger simmered within her, and she entertained the possibility of going public with her version of events. A tabloid editor had already approached her with a lucrative offer for an exclusive interview. Still, Cassandra hesitated. She was savvy enough to know that taking on the Lockhart family could be perilous. Reginald Lockhart had vast resources and a willingness to unleash top-tier lawyers if threatened. She also wrestled with genuine heartbreak. Beneath her ambitions, she had developed real feelings for Jameson. For the moment, she decided to lie low, avoiding further confrontation until she figured out her next move. As for Alicia, she preferred silence over half-baked apologies. Each day, she examined her reflection in the large vanity mirror, noting the changes in her body. Her belly, once barely noticeable, had blossomed significantly. She was carrying a precious new life who needed her more than ever. If Jameson wanted to step up and be a responsible father, he would have to prove it through actions, not empty words. Alicia's pregnancy advanced into the third trimester, her prenatal appointments growing more frequent. She opted for a private obstetrician, Dr. Evelyn Norris, who had experience handling high-profile patients and understood the importance of discretion. During one such visit, Dr. Norris took note of Alicia's elevated blood pressure and the stress evident in her demeanor. "Your well-being is paramount, Dr." Norris cautioned, gently pressing a stethoscope to Alicia's belly to listen to the steady thump-thump of the baby's heartbeat. High stress can contribute to complications like preterm labor. Try to rest more, find support, and surround yourself with positivity. Alicia nodded, blinking back tears. She longed for the support that a loving partner would normally provide. Instead, she navigated sleepless nights, overshadowed by a betrayal that gnawed at her heart. Nevertheless, each ultrasound showing the baby's healthy growth motivated her to keep going. She busied herself by finalizing the nursery, instructing decorators to paint whimsical murals of forests and animals, ensuring the child would enter a warm, nurturing environment. One rainy afternoon, Alicia noticed her phone buzzing with Jameson's name on the screen. After a moment's hesitation, she answered, her voice subdued. "Hello? Thank you for picking up," Jameson said, sounding breathless. "I wanted to see you. Please, let me come by the house, just for a conversation." A wave of anxiety washed over her. Part of her wanted to slam the phone down. Another part realized she owed it to herself to hear him out. "Fine," she said, "but keep it short." When Jameson arrived, the mansion's staff let him in with guarded looks. He found Alicia seated in the sunroom, arms folded over her belly. The rain drummed softly on the glass ceiling overhead, casting a muted glow across the tiles. He cleared his throat, struggling to maintain composure. "You look well," he offered, though he could see the toll of sleepless nights etched in her face. "Please, don't pretend everything is normal," she said, her tone sharp but tinted with sorrow. "What do you want, Jameson?" He took a step closer, hands trembling slightly. "I ended things with Cassandra, completely. I realized how badly I messed up. I want to prove to you that I can be the husband and father you deserve." Alicia's gaze flickered with conflicting emotions, anger, hurt, a faint spark of longing. "Words are cheap," she replied, steel in her voice. "Why should I believe anything you say now?" He knelt, lowering himself to her eye level, a gesture of humility. "Because I'm willing to show you," he said. "I'll move heaven and earth if that's what it takes. Whatever you need." She pressed her lips together, tears brimming. A swirl of memories flooded her mind, the love they once shared, the nights of whispered dreams, the heartbreak of his betrayal. Finally, she inhaled shakily. "I'm not ready to trust you. But if you want a chance at being here for your child, I'm not going to stop you. That doesn't mean we're together. You have to earn that back." A flicker of relief crossed Jameson's face. "Thank you," he whispered, standing. "I'd like to come to your next prenatal appointment, if you'll allow it." She hesitated. "All right," she said softly. Next Tuesday, 2 p.m. After their exchange, Alicia felt a glimmer of hope, tempered by caution. Actions, not declarations, would tell the true story. Jameson left the mansion that day with renewed determination. He contacted his attorney, instructing him to pause any talk of divorce. Then he reached out to their family lawyer to discuss potential pathways to reconciliation, from counseling sessions to more structured visitations with Alicia as her due date approached. On the other side of town, Cassandra discovered that Jameson had ghosted her once again. Furious and feeling used, she contemplated exacting revenge, perhaps an exclusive interview with a major publication, or even a lawsuit for emotional distress. Yet, something held her back. Maybe it was fear of Reginald Lockhart's formidable legal team, or maybe she still harbored illusions that Jameson would come back to her. Torn between resentment and heartbreak, she resolved to wait a bit longer, stewing in an upscale apartment that suddenly felt barren without Jameson's presence. For now, the tension coiled tighter between all parties. Alicia's next moves remained uncertain. Jameson attempted to pick up the shards of trust he had shattered, and Cassandra stood at a crossroads, uncertain whether to vanish from their lives or thrust herself into the spotlight. But one truth persisted. A baby would soon arrive, and none of them could escape the consequences of what had already been set in motion. The next Tuesday arrived, bright and clear. Jameson paced anxiously in the waiting room of Dr. Norris's office, glancing at the pastel-colored walls adorned with posters of smiling mothers and babies. Alicia emerged from an adjacent exam room, wearing a simple maternity dress that highlighted her burgeoning belly. She offered Jameson the briefest nod, then proceeded to the ultrasound area. Despite the lingering tension, she allowed him to sit beside her. Dr. Norris applied the cool gel to Alicia's stomach, and within moments, the screen came alive with the flicker of a heartbeat. Jameson's breath caught. He saw the gentle curve of the baby's head, tiny limbs, and the rhythmic pulse that symbolized new life. Alicia watched him discreetly, noticing genuine tears glistening in his eyes. Her own emotions swelled. Amid the chaos and hurt, they shared this miraculous moment of awe. When the ultrasound ended, Dr. Norris printed a few images, handing them to Alicia. "She's growing nicely," Dr. Norris said with a warm smile. "Looks like we might be expecting a little girl." A mix of shock and joy erupted in the room. Alicia clutched the ultrasound photos, tears welling in her eyes. Jameson reached out tentatively, placing a hand on Alicia's arm. She stiffened but did not pull away completely. They left the office together, a thick swirl of emotion hanging between them. Outside, the sun cast a glare on the busy Chicago street. Jameson cleared his throat. "A baby girl," he murmured in wonder. I want to be part of her life, Alicia. I want to do right by you both." Alicia's features softened slightly as she glanced at him. "Then start showing up in a way that matters. Be consistent. Be honest. I'm not making any promises beyond that." They parted ways, but Jameson felt an ember of hope. He poured himself into that hope, reaching out to schedule therapy sessions with a well-known marriage counselor named Dr. Meredith Howell. He attended each session religiously, whether Alicia chose to join him or not. He also cut off every avenue of contact with Cassandra, blocking her calls and texts. For a while, Cassandra attempted to reach him, leaving voicemails dripping with anger, heartbreak, and threats of exposure, but faced with Jameson's silence, she turned to other means. A friend in the local media suggested they run a tell-all about her affair with Jameson, painting her as the real victim. Cassandra toyed with the idea. The offered sum was tempting, and her bitterness at being cast aside simmered daily. Meanwhile, Alicia wrestled with her conflicting feelings. She still loved Jameson, she couldn't deny that, but her trust was shattered. She spoke at length with Camilla, who urged caution. "Don't rush back just because of the baby," Camilla warned. "He has to earn a place in your life." Alicia attended a few counseling sessions as well, although the first meetings were fraught with suppressed anger. Dr. Howell encouraged them to dissect what had driven Jameson to seek an affair. They discovered that beneath his confident exterior, Jameson was deeply anxious about fatherhood and losing his freedom. Alicia, consumed by pregnancy, had inadvertently neglected some of his emotional needs. Not that it justified his betrayal, but it illustrated how cracks in a marriage can widen if left unaddressed. Gradually, Alicia allowed Jameson small glimpses of reconciliation. They'd share brief dinners at the mansion, where he'd help prep the baby's nursery or learn about infant care. He would call her nightly to ask about her health. Each time, she hesitated before answering, wary of placing her heart in his hands again. Finally, In the quiet lull of a Sunday afternoon, Alicia woke to find herself cramping. Alarm shot through her. It was still a few weeks before her due date. Pain coursed through her abdomen, intensifying with each wave. She fumbled for her phone, dialing Jameson in a panic. He answered on the first ring. Hearing her strained voice, he rushed to the mansion, speeding through Chicago's streets. By the time he arrived, Alicia could barely stand. He gathered her into his arms, heart pounding. In the back of his mind, he prayed this was not a complication that would endanger Alicia or the baby. Moments later, they were racing to the hospital, the tension between them eclipsed by the urgent priority of welcoming new life. The hospital corridor buzzed with activity. Nurses hurried about with charts, monitors beeped in the distance, and an overhead speaker occasionally called for specialists. Jameson paced relentlessly outside the maternity ward. Alicia was whisked into a birthing suite, accompanied by a flurry of medical staff. Although she wasn't full term yet, the baby was on her way, and Alicia's contractions were too close together to stall. After a tense set of hours, replete with pain medication, breathing exercises, and tearful moments, Dr. Norris declared Alicia ready to deliver. Jameson donned sterile scrubs and stepped into the room, shaky but determined to be by Alicia's side. Perspiration glistened on Alicia's forehead, and she clung to the bed rail with white-knuckled intensity. Between contractions, she locked eyes with Jameson. For the first time in weeks, their gazes held mutual understanding, fear, hope, desperation, love, all intertwined. He reached for her hand, and she squeezed his fingers in a near-crushing grip. "You can do this," he murmured, tears threatening to spill. "I'm here." She let out a pained cry, straining under another contraction. Each push felt like an insurmountable mountain. Nurses coached her, offering encouragement, while Jameson offered shaky but earnest support. At last, a triumphant wail filled the room. "Doctor." Norris announced the arrival of a baby girl, her cries piercing and beautiful. Time seemed to slow as they placed the tiny infant against Alicia's chest. She was small but fierce, with scrunched features and tiny fists that flailed in the sterile air. Alicia gasped through tears, overwhelmed by a wave of love. Jameson stared, heart twisting with awe. He pressed a trembling kiss to Alicia's forehead. "She's perfect," he whispered. In the soft glow of overhead lights, Alicia finally allowed herself a moment of tenderness. She reached for Jameson's hand, guiding it to their newborn's wispy hair. A sense of unity enveloped them, a brief reprieve from the months of turmoil. Soon after, the baby was whisked away for routine checks. Alicia, weak but relieved, sank against the pillows, exhaustion creasing her features. Jameson sat at her bedside, gingerly brushing a strand of hair from her damp forehead. "Thank you," he said softly, voice thick with emotion. She managed a faint smile. "For what?" "For letting me be here," he replied, "for trusting me enough to share this moment. I know how badly I've hurt you, and I won't pretend everything is magically fixed now. But I want to do whatever it takes to be a family." Alicia's eyes shimmered with fresh tears. "I'm not sure what our future looks like," she admitted. "But for our daughter's sake, I'm willing to try very slowly, very carefully." Shortly after, a nurse returned, carrying the swaddled infant in a pastel-colored blanket. She lay the baby gently in Alicia's arms. Jameson leaned in, marveling at the new life they had created. Already he felt an unbreakable bond pulling him into fatherhood. The gravity of that responsibility of providing love, stability, and a moral compass settled over him like a weighted cloak. Meanwhile, news of the birth raced through social circles, overshadowing the scandal of Jameson's affair. Camilla arrived with flowers and well wishes, tears brimming at the sight of her newborn niece. Even Reginald Lockhart made a rare public display of affection, cradling his granddaughter and murmuring about the bright future that lay ahead. In the ensuing days, Alicia stayed in the maternity ward for recovery. Jameson remained at her side, dozing in a chair beside the bed, waking at all hours to help feed or rock the baby. Their conversations dipped into the basics of infant care: diapers, swaddles, lullabies, but gradually expanded to deeper truths. Alicia spoke of the heartbreak she endured, the distrust that still lingered. Jameson shared his sincere regrets, acknowledging each of his missteps. By the time mother and child were discharged, there was no formal agreement on the state of their marriage. However, a gentler air replaced the anger that once clenched Alicia's heart. They returned to the Lockhart mansion, uncertain but open to the idea that healing, though difficult, might be possible. Back under the roof they once called home, Alicia and Jameson slowly charted a fragile path toward reconciliation. Late-night feedings and the baby's soft coos worked as a balm to old wounds, nudging them toward conversations that fostered honesty and mutual respect. Trust, they learned, isn't restored overnight. It takes ongoing effort, genuine remorse, and a willingness to face hard truths head-on. Where this journey will lead remains unknown. For now, they cling to each small victory, recognizing the preciousness of their second chance. And in the eyes of their newborn daughter, they see hope and the realization that life can, indeed, be rebuilt from shards of betrayal. If this gripping tale kept you hooked, don't forget to hit that like button, share the story with friends who crave real-life drama, and subscribe for more powerful narratives. Your support helps us continue uncovering stories that captivate heart and soul.